The January Saltwater Estuary Box. All right, let's start off with the hard bodies in the box this month first, before we dive into the array of plastics that we've included this month. First up from Fishcraft is the little Snoop Dog. So this is a little pencil or stick bait style topwater lure. So with this one, I'm gonna fish it over the flats or maybe near some rock bars or something, but predominantly I'm looking over the flats where those brim and stuff are coming up to feed once the tide's coming up over those flats. Long cast out, twitch your rod up and down as you wind this in, causes this lure to swim and dart side to side. Now if you're chasing whiting, which is fantastic with these, I'll often change the back hook for like some little stinger hooks on some braid, works a treat. If you see some whiting chase after it, speed up the retrieve a little bit more, and you'll often find other whiting come in and actually start fighting over the lure. If you've got to go a little bit deeper, then you've got this one from Damiki, the Disco Deep 38. This is like a little tiny chubby crankbait. Perfect again over the flats, or once again looking for maybe some structure. So once those brims start to retreat off the flats or the tide's dropping, they may go retreat back to some structure, so some pontoons, some rock walls, oyster racks, etc. This is going to be perfect for that. So cast out near that structure, crank it down, slow retrieve back, and you're going to be laughing. First of the plastics this month is from Fish Arrow. So we've got this one here, the Flash J Squid in a 3.5 inch. Now I like to rig these as light as my line can cast. So I often go 6 pound braid or even lighter with a super light jig head. Sometimes if I can cast it, even a weightless jig head or very minimal weight on there, just giving us a very, very slow sink through the current. I'll let the current do most of the swimming for me. If you're gonna be chasing things like flathead and stuff, like your bottom dwellers, you can chuck on a heavier jig head onto this one, which is your Little Jack Modelism EBI, which is like a little shrimp or prawn or yabby sort of imitation. The detail in these is absolutely phenomenal. So I also like to rig these with a slightly heavy head, so like a 1/4 ounce or something. Let this sink a little bit deeper, and you can hop it along the bottom, hop it off those drop-offs, chasing your flatties that might be hanging around there. Next in the plastics that we've included this month is from Damiki, the Damiki Squash Shad in a 2.5 inch. So these are a little 1.4 gram, kind of like a hybrid between a curl tail and a paddle tail. More of a paddle tail, but they're essentially a paddle tail little grub style plastic. They're quite unique, but they'll have a very tight little wobbling action with that little tail on the back. It's going to be once again perfect for your brim and your whiting. You can use it for your flathead. But with something like this being the paddle tail, I'll probably go or something around the 1/4 ounce jig head for that. I like to fish lighter jig heads on either like your flick baits or even your curl tail, where you're going to get a little bit more action with a slower sink out of that lighter jig head. Which brings me to the next one. Smarky Boom Baits Curlicious in the 2.5 inch, which is a little curl tail grub this time. So you've got an array of different plastics, all different profiles here to cover heaps of different areas. So something like this one, I'm going to chuck on a lighter jig head, once again as light as I can cast, maybe a little bit heavier than what I would have put on the Flash J Squid, just to cover different depths, etc. But something like this light jig head is phenomenal. If you want to use it for flathead, feel free to chuck on a heavier jig head. But the way I fish for flatties is a light jig head casting up current, and let that current swim it along those drop-offs for me. And that's it for the Saltwater Estuary Box this January. If you want to check it out or any of the others in the range, just head to www.tackleclub.com.au. Pick a box that's right for you, and welcome to the club.